Hello, everybody who's close by and far, everybody who's here in this land or in other lands, with everything happening in the world, post-corona, in the middle of the corona, everything happening now in America. We're here to commemorate our father, Rabbi David Zeller's 13th Yahrzeit. We said that 13, it's a bar mitzvah. It's a bar mitzvah. And bar mitzvah is a rite of passage. It's a change in every, in a young boy or girl going through their bat or bar mitzvah. It's about a change. And I think that sometimes we think that only the living change, but the truth is we change, the world changes, and so do our dead. They change as well. They change together with us. In the parsha that we're going to read next Shabbat, we hear about two sacred objects that are carried through the desert, and one is the casket, the aron of Joseph, and the other is the aron that carried the Torah and the luchot, the broken and whole tablets. But they're both moving. My Abba, who is very much into mysticism, one of the greatest images of Jewish mysticism is the Merkava. And the Merkava is something which is always moving. It's a God which is a dynamic, ever-changing. So here we are celebrating and commemorating a Yahrzeit. And sometimes I look at the world and feel, how much would my Abba have changed and grown with everything happening everywhere around us? And how much we have changed. And here we are sharing together, and I'm just very happy to have everybody here together with us. And I just wanted to maybe share something from his book, because in his book he talks about meeting Reb Shlomo for the first time, and after being with him nonstop for a while, they danced with him to the airport. When they danced with him at the airport, they waited to hear what he would say as he was parting, and what he said was this. He said, "You have to be soul brothers and soul sisters to each other. So how do you do that?" And my Abba writes this as a powerful moment. He said, "You have to become window brothers and window sisters to each other. You have to look more deeply into each other and let others look more deeply into yourselves. And if somebody spits on your window, you have to turn it into a door, open it up and invite them in." And here we are the last couple of months. On the one hand, we've all been closed up in our own homes, not been able to leave. Some of us in isolation, some of us disconnected, maybe on the physical realm from the people around us, much less hugs, touching, meeting each other. But our communities have been changing as well. And here we are gathered together on this Zoom, and our computer is one of these windows. And here we can, as soul brothers and sisters, to be able to look into each other's eyes, to be able to open up our hearts and our souls. And I'm so excited because this is maybe the first Yahrzeit that we could actually invite some of our dearest, closest friends, family, to be able to speak and to share a little bit. Even though you're so far, look how close we are. Look how close we are. And this is such a gift that the last couple of months has enabled us. So I'd like to maybe open it up, and we have with us Aunt Jackie. Aunt Jackie, you here? Aunt Jackie is our father's big sister. And if she's here, I'd really be honored, and we would all love to have you share a couple of words. So if you're with us, I know you were with us. If you're still with us, Aunt Jackie.
I am. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I have unmuted myself.
We still can't hear you, Aunt Jackie. Unmute yourself, please.
Hold on.
Or you can't hear me.
Okay, can you hear me? People are nodding, everyone but David, except for Mordechai. Hi, Sharia. Hi, Hannah Sarah.
Okay, can you disconnect it from there?
Can you hear me yet? Raise your hand if you can hear me.
Keep talking, maybe we'll hear you now.
Hi, David and Nancy.
Okay, you can speak.
Everyone can hear me except you, Mordechai. Can you hear me now? Mordechai.
not connected to your computer.
Hi, Sharia. No.
Hi.
Ah, you can hear me.
Now I hear you.
Hi, Esther. Hi. Okay, Mordechai, I'm on, but I can barely. Hi, Hannah, Sarah. This is my. Can you hear me? This is my first Yahrzeit that I've been able to come to, except for during sitting Shiva 13 years ago. So this is, Zoom provides a gift, doesn't it? That we're all together. And we just last week or 2 weeks ago had all the Zellers together. And that was amazing, with a couple of my kids and cousins who hadn't seen each other in 20 years. And so it was a gift. So I have so many memories of my little brother. And by the way, my older brother, Dan, who is 6 years older than me and 9 years older than David, sends his love and regrets that he can't be here. I have so many memories. David and I were best friends. We shared a bedroom until we were into our early teens. When we got a little old for that, my parents put a sliding door in the middle of the room so that we would each have our own room. But David had to cross over my room to get to his, and he had to give a password, and we had a line down the middle, and it was always very special. But there's so many memories before his spiritual quest of his white bread and bologna sandwiches. That's all he would eat for lunch every day. And our eating raw cookie dough that my mom would make. And all three of us kids would sneak in there and eat that chocolate chip cookie dough. And he went to India. And at that time, I lived in San Francisco. And when he came back, I and my family were just moving to Alaska. And he said, wait for me. It'll be a great transition to drive from San Francisco to Alaska. So he came home to Los Angeles, wrapped in white with a turban and very holy looking and very sort of out of confusion to come back into a Los Angeles place. And we drove, I think we stayed there for 2 days so we could say hi to our parents. And then we had 2 cars, my sister-in-law Nancy and David and my ex-husband and the 2 children and me in another car in a van. And we drove to Alaska over a week and a half. And every time we camped, we put David to sit on a campsite table in his garb, in his holy garb. And he would sit there with his guitar and sing or just pray, and the whole place would empty around us. So we had complete privacy in our campsite because everyone was scared of this holy looking man. So this was 1971 or 72. So you can imagine. So we had all this privacy because David would park himself on our benches and pray and sing for us. And he and Nancy, my sister-in-law, turned around in Canada and went back home to Los Angeles. But it was a wonderful, wonderful transition for him and for us, and the stories we heard about his time in India. And he and Hanasara came up to, was it Alaska, Hanasara? Or was it Maryland, to tell us they were engaged to be married. And I was the first person to meet Hanasara on one of my trips up to Massachusetts, and I approved and could say, yes, you can get married to Hanasara. And the beautiful wedding and the grief of his dying 1 year almost exactly from our mother's death. And I miss him every day. Without fail, I think of him something in my house reminds me of him. A story, a joke, music. When my mother was dying, we played his tapes nonstop the last couple of days. And so she could be with him and he could be with her. And that's all. That's all. Back to you, Mordechai.
Thank you, Aunt Jackie. Thank you, thank you. Somebody on our side want to share something? Okay. Okay, who else is there? Juliet, do you want to share something? Juliet Goldstein?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, it's so wonderful to be with you all, and so many blessings to Mordechai and all the family, and to Manya, and just to everyone. It's just so special to be with you all, and to hear the stories of David when he was a boy from his sister was very special, and the beautiful video of him in India with his long hair and all the people he met there. It was so beautiful to see all that. And it was very special for me because I was very privileged to live with the Zellers in California in their home when Mordechai and Manya were very small. And it was such a blessing. They were. Go ahead. Do you want to say something, Mordechai?
I seem to remember you watched over us when Esther Amuna was born, but maybe no?
Well, I remember Esther Amuna when you were living in Santa Rosa. I remember her as a small baby. But I did take care of you as children, and you were such beautiful, beautiful children, and so special. And David, he actually helped me. He was very key in helping me to get my green card, because I was, so to speak, working for him with a network of conscious Judaism, and I got my green card through David's help. That was such a blessing. And I remember so many things, all the teachings and the music and the workshops and in so many different places, and also the meditation in your home in Palo Alto. It was such a holy meditation group there, and it was so special. And I also was at Mount Madonna with David, which is a healing center, retreat center in California, and at Ruach on the East Coast. Yes.
I remember that, yeah, with Baba Haridas. We weren't allowed to eat the candies he gave out because they weren't kosher. But yeah, I remember spending a weekend there, right?
Yeah, I think that might be where we met Deborah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that too. I think we met a lot of interesting people out there.
Yes.
It was a beautiful place.
Wow, you've got a good memories, because you were very small children then. And it was so special to be with you, such a beautiful family. And I can remember David at Shabbos table or some other time telling stories, Hasidic stories, but he told them in such a great way. It was like they were just lighting up for you, those stories and everything like that. And of course his music, I play his music many times, and I just love hearing it. I mean, everybody I think does. It's so special. And his sense of humor, and just so many different things. It goes on and on when I came to Israel in 2001 for an interfaith peace gathering, David asked me to come to Yakar so we could talk and reminisce a little over the years. And then he came to the gathering and he sang and he played music for us at the gathering. I can just go on with so many memories, but it's just a blessing to be with you all. And I don't think I know, Hannah Sarah, I actually was with you in the Moshav when you were giving a yoga class in 2001, and I was doing arts and dance for the women. It was a Rosh Chodesh. So we drove in a car together to come back to Jerusalem. So it was special to meet you. And it was so beautiful today to see on the video your beautiful garden, that I know that you had a lot to do with creating that garden. So I don't think I know the two younger people on the screen. So I don't know who you are, sorry to say.
She's not so young anymore. You can have
This is Esther
Oh,
Amuna
Esther and Muna, wow.
and Sha'aria.
You were a little baby when I... Oh, Sharia. Wow, that's great. Oh, thank you. Yes,
Thank you
Esther and
so
Muna,
much.
you were just a little baby when I knew. Blessings.
Thank you
So
so
many
much for
blessings.
sharing. Thank you so much.
Wow, this is very special. Oh, you can't see me. Okay, I'll go sit over there. Wow, this is interesting and special and so different than what we're used to. Hi, everybody. Just something that came to me now. I've been thinking over the last couple of months, this whole coronavirus period of time, that people have been selling special courses and this and that on the internet, and one of the interesting things that I joined in to hear somebody giving a talk was somebody who was offering a series in I don't remember what he called it exactly, but I listened to one of his talks and I said, oh, that's what Abba would do. And he was just going on and giving the depth of every Jewish holiday and all the Jewish practices and all sorts of things, and saying, here, you can make your life deeper, you can have your life, you can be more present in your life. And I was like, wow. And then they called to say, well, do you want to sign up for our year-long course? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I grew up like that already. I don't need your course. I got it from the original source. But just to see how things that Abba had started to plant in this world, and to see how things now, 13 years later, are just like, it's like obvious and what's the word? Growing and just more. It's just there, and the world is more ripe now for the things that he was trying to bring that sounded so new. Yeah, they were so new and so daring and so wow, so many years ago, and now people are, oh yeah, that's great. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I was like, wow. I wish Abba was here to see this and give his say into that. I see we have David and Melissa here. Hi. You guys ready to speak yet? Can we unmute you?
Yeah. Here, 1 second. There we go.
Hello?
Yeah, we
Hey.
Wait a minute. Sorry. So, hello from Riverdale, New York. What are we going to say?
It's so wonderful to see you guys. No, you're going to say.
Okay, so I'll do a very short something that showed me a lot about David. And this is from our wedding, which was about 21 years ago. And David was the Masadr Kedushin. And we had the kind of a crowd at our wedding that wasn't a total Shlomo crowd and all. So, some of them were, some of them weren't. So I said to David before the Bedek, and I said, no, you might want to keep this a little concise so people can follow. He said, no problem. And about 10 minutes went by in the Bedekin, 20, 30, 40. We finally decided to finish the Bedekin in about 45 minutes. And at one point, I noticed that my 90-year-old grandfather at that point had been standing during the entire Bedekin. I don't know how that happened. So, okay, so then we get to right before the chuppah and go over to him and said, okay, I know you tried to make that concise. That was a great attempt, but for the chuppah, could you maybe try to do that? So we said, no problem. An hour and a half later, we were done. And the funniest part is he comes up to me after the chuppah and he said, see, it did well. And I said, you know, man, you really did. How can you get mad at that? How could you ever get mad at somebody who is so genuine and so unique and so loving and so everything that everyone has said and will say? And we love him. We miss him terribly. It's amazing that it is 13 years and our children and many of your children or grandchildren look a lot different today than they did 13 years ago. And it really is great to be here with people we know and people that we don't know. So, you want to say anything else? Over it.
No, we miss you guys. We love you. Thank you for letting us be a part of the celebration of your Abba's life and your partner's life, Hanasara.
We love you, and you are part of our life, and you are deep in our hearts. We miss you guys. Thank you for everybody who's joining in. I just want to say I don't see everybody, but I went through some of the names. This is the Yahrzeit joined in. What we're doing different is every year we choose kind of a subject and people speak about it. This year we thought that we're happy to invite people to kind of share their memories. And if anybody has something short to share, just wait on the chat or write to me. Okay, and we will ask you to share something. So I'd really like to ask Dvorah Spillman, Deborah, who, wow, we have so many memories of you. And I'd say one of my first teachers in this world of how to tell a good story was my Abba and Deborah. So Dvorah, let's unmute Dvorah Spillman, David. David Shamata? Yeah, by going to the gallery view. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, am I muted? Can you hear me? Hi, I just want to come over there and hug you.
Can you speak a bit louder?
So I have to say, how's that?
Good.
Can you hear me better now? Is that good?
She's fine. It's not her. It's us. It's not.
Can you guys, can everybody hear me okay? How's that? Good sound? So someone mentioned Baba Haridas. I will never forget how I first met David and Manya. Do you remember meeting me, Manya, at the Baba Haridas Retreat Center? I had just come back from Israel and I was all mishkabobbled, and I was like this very like women's liber, secular. I had abandoned my Jewish spirituality, but I'd gone to Israel and cried, and I came back and I saw there was this spiritual rabbi named Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, who I'd never heard of, and he was going to be, I lived in Santa Cruz, at Mount Madonna Retreat Center with the guru, so I went there, and I plunked myself down next to Etty. She was Etty then, to Ilana Zeller, and I said, why would you, a modern American woman, be Orthodox? And she said, would you like to come to my house for Shabbos? And my husband teaches meditation. You could come on Thursday night. That changed my life forever. I then proceeded after this retreat with Shlomo Carlebach, and I spent from Thursday all the way through Sunday at the home of the Zellers in Santa Clara. And I have a one-woman show, and this story is part of that, because I remember sitting in David Zeller's meditation class going, they didn't tell me this in Hebrew school. And that was how I met Jody Feld, who was not married yet either. And
who's also here now.
Is Jody here too? I don't see her. I'll have to move my screen. There's a lot of us. So the very next Shabbat, I spend my first Shabbat with a religious Jewish woman, and she's in my show too, about how to keep it. And then we became best friends. Devorah Lansky came over and became our best friend, and we all ended up moving in to live together in Berkeley. And that all started at the Zellers. And then Jody and I spent a lot of time at the home of the Zellers in Santa Clara, especially when Alana was going through cancer, and we were there. I was at your house, Esther Muna, when they came home from the hospital with you. I think I even dreamt your name was Esther or something. And I began telling them stories, and they would give me ideas for the stories, and then I would enhance them. And they were like you were all a constant part of my life, and the stories that I told and we told, and the playing that we did. And then when I came to Israel, your home was my home. And then I even remember, I remember having a conversation with Manya. I think you were in the bath or something. We were discussing somebody who your Abba thought he should get, the woman before Hanukkah, who was a disaster. And we figured that out.
Not
and and but Hanukkah, when you came along, we all knew. We all loved you. And then your whole family welcomed me into your life and brought me to the Moshav, and that's where I met where I met the Trugmans who are on here, and I already knew the Goldfarbs from back in Berkeley. But when I came to Israel, your family, the Zellers, were my home away from home. They really gave me my place in the world. I wasn't married, and Jacob is here listening in the background, and I came to the Moshav, and all the kids would come running. When are you going to tell the story? And and then the stories that David told, and he gave me back my Judaism. I would not be an observant Jew today if it wasn't for David Zeller. He literally opened up a door that had been shut because of the way I grew up and the Hebrew school experience I had. And I used to say, well, they never told me this. Like, he finally helped me put together what I in my heart knew God was and what Judaism said God was, because in Hebrew school, they never told me that. And so from that moment on, when I met the Zellers in Santa Clara, it opened up this door that has been opening and opening for me my whole life. And the other thing I remember, do you remember, Hannah, I don't know, Esther Moon, if you remember, but I'm sure Manya and Mordechai remember when you had that Seder with Shlomo Carlebach in your house in Santa Clara. Do you remember that? And
I remember that really well. That's one of my first childhood memories, is falling asleep on your lap under the table. And you woke me up when we went outside with candles to meet Eliyahu Hanavi or something.
Right.
I have memories of that. I was like 5, I think, or 4.5. But yeah.
Right. I remember meeting you even at Mount Madonna, I think, and we had some whole conversation. And I remember at some point when you were a child, I remember saying to you, we got to be so close. I said, Manya, one day it'll be like we're the same age. And then now that's true. And so, and here you are doing this thing to bring us all in and to help us, to bring that spirit, what your Abba brought into the world has lit the lives and the souls of so many people. And the fact that he got his book out into the world is just such an amazing thing. And then all of you just continuing to launch his vision out in the world. I mean, Mordechai watched your videos and things from in England and how you're just launching his spirit out into the world. So may his blessing continue. My daughter, one of my daughters, Eliana, is going to be in Israel this coming year. So I will send her she's going to be studying at Machon Mayan at Givat Washington campus.
So she'll have a lot of homes to come to for Shabbos.
Yes. And Esther Moon, are you still living in Tekoa?
Yes, we will talk.
We want to talk to you about that. I'm feeling called to maybe move to Tekoa.
Okay.
So just so you know.
Okay,
So
thank you
all.
so much. I want to ask, so first of all, whoever kind of joined in, we're sharing. Yeah, should we put on David Nassim as a... We're going to share a short video. We're going to do a share screen to hear a little bit from our Abba. And again, if you would like to share something, then please just write a message. And I'm getting the messages, writing it down. We'll ask people to share something short and sweet, something of your memory of our Abba as we're celebrating the bar mitzvah of his Yahrzeit. What? It's like the 50th anniversary of his 30th, yeah. David,
Maybe say who's going to talk afterwards.
I think music is one of our greatest.
Let's let Abba talk. You can recognize that voice anymore.
This is time to say that we couldn't do any of this without the help of our behind the scenes, all of Manya's family, David and Elia, who are our only technical hope in this Zeller family. So thank you very much for bringing our dreams and our spirit down to earth and helping us zoom in and do this.
I think music is one of our greatest.
It's okay.
Sing something.
So,
Want to sing something?
No. So, Shani, ספר משהו בינתיים? So, while we're waiting for a video to show up, so I'll share something I remembered over the past weekend. The story of my Abba. So, I remember when I was 14. This is, I think, about a year, maybe a bit more before he passed away, and before he was sick. And I wanted to go to a concert with friends of mine in Tel Aviv of this Israeli rock band that I got to know through Mordechai, of course, my good education, my musical education at home. And I didn't know if it would be okay, what would they say, what would my parents say. So I asked my Abba, and the answer he gave me then, I think I only understood fully, I guess, a good couple of years later. He said, well, music is a very, very powerful thing, and I can totally understand why you want to go to a concert. And I can't say no. I've been there. I've done those things. And also at your age, I wanted to go to concerts. And I just want you to be careful. And he kind of told me a couple of things, basic things. He said, you're going there. Don't go with anybody you don't know. Take a cab. You're young. Don't buy any open drinks. Don't share a drink with anybody. Don't smoke anything. Just go with your friends. Take a cab there. Take a cab back from where you're sleeping that night. And enjoy musicals. Music is such an amazing thing, and concerts are an amazing thing. And have a great time. And it truly was a great time. And I think that was my first real concert that I went to. And I've really grown to appreciate that answer, the complexity of it, and how sincere he was, and the way he brought also his past into that, and that really kind of goes with me until today. And we're gonna see a short video now.
Sound.
We're having technical problems. I'm sorry. We can have we'll have somebody else speak now.
Should we ask Aunt Karen? Aunt Karen? Karen Stone? Are you there? Can we unmute you? And you'll share something short? Wave, Aunt Karen, so we see you.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Mordechai, do you hear me now?
Of course, yes we do.
All right. Well, you know David Zeller wasn't an ordinary person. He lifted me up when he talked to me. His hugs were like from God knows where. And he was continual support for myself and my sister, who we married. That's why I know him. And I'm a bit of a, I feel things and people even after they've left, and he's continually there for me. And this one time, so many times, I don't know where to start, but this one time after my mom had passed, this stays with me. This scene just kind of stays with me. But my mom had passed, and I was bringing him to the airport, and we were saying goodbye, and he just started crying because he felt so bad that he couldn't be there for us when my mom had passed. And we were all so close, and our family. Jackie, you know, I mean, how close David was with people. I'm gonna start crying. And he said to me how upset he was that he wasn't there for me, and he cried and he hugged me. And I said, you know, David, you don't always have to be there for us. Sometimes we can be there for you. And all of a sudden I felt like I said something amazing to David Zeller, who always said things amazing. But he just really, this is a man who really lifted you up and went through you and hugged and understood whatever you were going through. He understood and accepted, and he was full of acceptance for us all. And I'm just blessed that he had married my sister, because look at the children and the grandchildren, and just so thankful that he touched my life and he touched all of you. Obviously he touched everybody else's life that he had known. So, you know, thank you, Hashem, for bringing him here and having him be with me and us. That's all I got. This is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
You'll meet him next summer.
Karen. Thank you. Thank you so much. We love you.
Love you too.
Okay, we're going to try again to put on a video, and hopefully it'll work. Let's see if this...
I think music is one of our greatest meditative practices. And I mean, in the Torah it says how Samuel is going with the students of prophecy. I always like to tell people, today we go to school to learn to make a prophet, but in the old days you could study to be a prophet. And they all carried musical instruments, because music helped lift us up from states of sadness to states of joy. And they say you can't get into higher states of consciousness if you're sad. And by, in a sense, Kabbalistic or Torah psychology would say our normal way of walking around in the world and thinking this is what I'm about and this is who I am and I have to do this and happiness is based on having these material things, they said that's all a state of basic sadness compared to an understanding that my life has purpose. There's more to things than just the outer appearance. And music was always seen as a means of carrying us from sort of one way of seeing this to another. And so I think it's been a very important part of my work. Whenever I teach, whether it's at a PhD program or in a synagogue, I always use music. I start with song. It helps get people kind of centered and brings them in touch with themselves. And then I'll go into the material that I have to teach. And then I'll sing another song in the middle so they have a chance to take in what's being said and find some way to work with it, and then go back into some more material. Stories are similar. What we'd call in psychology, we talk about the right brain and the left brain, that the right brain takes things in a holistic sort of way, whereas the left brain is very rational, logical. So most of us are overextended in our left brain. We know how to do the logical, rational, mathematical, but the poetic, the song holds the words. The melody holds the words of the song. The storyline holds the content of the story. And I think that's a lot of Judaism. I think, I don't want to sound critical, but I think to some degree we got very much caught up with our content, with the words, and started to lose some of the melody. And it's constantly, the work is to keep it together. To constantly say, where's the melody to all the words? Do this and don't do this and learn this and so on. You get into Shabbos, or you get into prayer, and it's something experiential. There's a melody to it. I don't mean just literally song, but there's something else that holds it all together in a way. And that often people miss that. They just see all these books that you should study or something. And so I'm trying to be an advocate for that experiential right brain feeling part, the heart part of it as much as I can. Yeah. Maybe we should do a song. Stop all this talking, huh? Okay. This is a song that goes back to a great Hasidic master, Rabbi Levi Yitzhak of Berditchev. And the words are Ribbono Shel Olam. It means master of the universe, master of the world. But the interesting thing, our word for world, which is Olam, Ribbono, master Shel Olam, of the world. Olam in Hebrew also means that which is hidden and concealed. And we recognize, what do I see in the world? Do I know what's going on when I meet a person? I'm meeting an outer part of them, But there's so much more of them that's concealed. And as God is concealed in the world, the essence of a person is concealed in them. So to use a song like this, in fact, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, he says, this is an excellent mantra. He says, you're looking for a mantra? I'm glad you discovered the idea of it from some Indian or yogic or whatever. We have our mantras. And if you want to take something and repeat it, and if it helps you to get in touch and remember that there's so much more to the world and to ourselves than what we see, he says, Ribbono Shel Olam is a very good. Ribbono Shel Olam, 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 Ribbono Shel Olam. So that's a sample of kind of very gentle kind of music that can be very soothing and kind of just in that stillness and quietness of us remind us to slow down. We're usually so much ahead of the pace of our own heartbeat until our heart is beating faster and faster to catch up with us. Sometimes we need to remember to slow down to a more natural pace and say, oh, I forgot what it's like to sit without tension building up, ready to jump to the next kind of thing. Often I've done workshops on time, space, and being, and I say to people, time is the greatest slavery, in a way that we're racing and racing to catch up and keep up and meet schedules and, finish the show on time and all of those things. So it's, I like just the singing because it just, helps me to just really slow down.
It's beautiful.
Okay, can you hear me? So, I just want to share one of the stories that I thought that's really relevant that I found myself on Shabbat sharing with our kids. In his book, he shares about meeting all these wonderful teachers, all these great teachers, Jung, Reb Shlomo, Carl Rogers, Alan Watts. But out of all the teachers, there's one who's a little bit different. And he talks about once that he was teaching, and pretty soon we have here also somebody who will maybe share some memories of being students of Abba's back in the early 70s. But he suddenly heard a bird screeching outside of his window, and he saw two baby birds that fell from their nest. And he came in and sat with them, and the birds kind of climbed up on his shoulder, and he brought them inside. And he called a student of his who was a veterinarian. He says, what am I supposed to, can you take care of them? And she says, I'll be right over. And she came by with a little eye drop with some crushed up fruit and said, you need to feed them every hour, and for the next couple days, and they'll be fine. And he said, no, you're the veterinarian. I can't do this. I'm teaching. I'm busy. I have to run around. I have to do... And she said, didn't you teach us last week that God sends everybody, whoever he needs, in order to teach him? Exactly what they need. He fell outside your window, not outside of mine. And my Abba writes in his book, says, don't you hate it when your teachings come back right at you? So he sat there. And at the beginning, he would run out for an hour and come back to feed them. But then he said, I understood it's not that important. What's important is being here. And he said,